So, so what are some of the biggest problems for so many of the supplements on the market today? I mean, why can't I just throw something in a capsule and say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, which, by the way, folks, is not good for you? But why I could do that, right?
Yeah, so I think, look, one of the issues with the dietary supplement space, of course, it's often maligned by the media and even individuals in our profession, obviously, in the medical establishment. But the truth of the matter is there's a very low barrier to entry, right, to get into the dietary supplement space. I mean, essentially, all you need to do is if you've got the capital and you've got the funding, you can go to a contract manufacturer, of which there are hundreds, of course, in North America alone. And you could just let them know, hey, I want to be able to bring a product to market, a weight loss product to market, for example. And these individuals may not have any training, any background at all in nutritional biochemistry, let alone even health and nutrition or medicine, or anything related to the dietary supplement space. And so they can just jump in, dive in, have a label, a product on the market with very little barrier to entry. Of course, there's no approval process per se. And that sets up a scenario where you can have bad actors who come into that space and bring a product to market that may have dubious health benefits, if any, and could actually be harmful. So if they don't understand ingredients, dosing, sourcing, which is huge, and adulteration, which could also be a problem, then you could sort of see where there's a setup for bad scenarios to occur.
So is there any way the consumer standing in a shelf in a health food store or looking at Amazon and there's we won't name something, but how
without naming names?
Yeah, without naming names. Sure. Actually, I got to tell this story. Long ago, actually, after my first book came out, there were several supplement companies approached me for putting my name on some of their supplements. And again, we won't name names, but one of these companies was in New Jersey, where you are located, and it was not you. But I was watching these supplements come down a conveyor belt, and they would be divided into two lines, and different labels with actually doctors' names were put on each one. And one doctor, quite frankly, got about 4 times the amount for the same supplement that the other doctor, who wasn't very famous, but they were the exact same supplement. And the point of all this was that neither of these doctors had actually designed these supplements. They were merely putting their names on it, and the cachet of one doctor was apparently made his supplement much more expensive than the other supplement, which was identical.
Right.
And until I actually founded Gundry MD, I refused, to put my name on this sort of thing. I wanted control over the ingredients based on my 20 years of experimenting with myself and patients and allowing them to, So that happens all the time, right?
It absolutely does. Yeah, the wonderful world of white labeling or private labeling, right, as we call it in the industry.
Right.
And you're right. The issue with that is it could very well be a wonderful formula. It could be a great formula. It could have validated, branded, patented ingredients with safety and efficacy. But again, you lose touch of you lose that accountability if the individual whose name's obviously on the label has no real input on the design of the formula and doesn't really understand their product. And that leaves that brand open to a lot of potential pitfalls there. And that is just one example of some of the nefarious things that can happen in the industry. But by and large, I think the majority of players in the space are trying to do the right thing, and their heart's in the right place. of course, there's the old adage, right? The road to the road to hell is
Hell.
paved in good intent, right? With good intentions. But
And you know my corollary to that, the road to health is paved with good intestines.
I like that. I like that. That's the first I hear that, but I like that. That's great. That's great. So yeah. Ultimately, it becomes a challenge for a consumer to, I guess, make a decision and understand which products on the market are reliable and have a strong scientific substantiation behind them, or have a strong quality assurance, quality control team behind them, or an individual such as yourself, a professional who's representing the brand and designing the products behind the brand. So that's key. There are some, I would say, there are some opportunities to look for certain seals on the label. That you also need to be careful there as well, because some seals can just be, you can make up a seal and have it on the label, of course. But others are important. We actually, for example, at our regulatory compliance company, developed a seal called Nutri-Vigilance Verified. And so that lets you know that at least someone is watching the cookie jar who's a third party, not an owner in the company, but of course a physician-directed third party who's looking out for pre- and post-market safety. You could also look for other seals that are involved with third-party testing as well, independent testing, to make sure that what's on the label is actually what's in the bottle.
Yeah, and all of our Gundry MD products, are third party tested. Goes again. Don't take my word for it. We want somebody else to verify that that's in there. So
That's right.
that's something that a consumer should look at when they're picking up a jar in a health food store. Are there any dead giveaways that you might not be getting what you think you're getting in that product?
Well, there is this practice to look for. It's the practice of proprietary blends. That tends to happen. Now, here's the thing with proprietary blends. If the intention of the proprietary blend is not to fairy dust or sprinkle in small doses of well-reputed, I guess, premium ingredients, then there would be nothing wrong with proprietary blending if that's really what it's doing, is protecting someone's intellectual property. However, that creates an opportunity for someone to do it for the wrong reasons. So they may have an ingredient proprietary blend that has 4 ingredients, and 2 or 3 or 4 of the ingredients are very low cost, very low quality, and maybe there's one ingredient that's a cost driver. So they can prop blend it in order to reduce the overall cost of their product and increase their margins, still selling the product at a standard retail price. So that's definitely something to look for. It doesn't mean 100% of proprietary blends are utilizing this practice, but I think by and large, there are very few reasons to have a proprietary blend these days, because for example, we have multiple ingredients on the market that we've commercialized that are ingredients that we license to the industry. So the whole industry can use it, but they can use the trademark version, which is patent protected. And that's the ingredient that has also been through the rigors of safety testing and human clinical trials. And hence you can make substantiation based on that branded proprietary ingredient, but it can be fully disclosed on the label. And so I think that's something to look for.
I think that's a very good point. I know there are a lot of well thought out blends, well documented blends, but so many companies want to catch your eye with something that may have a very legitimate benefit. And the clinical studies show that you should be taking 200 milligrams of this compound twice a day to get the observed clinical benefit. And in this particular product, there's 2 milligrams. And
Right.
unfortunately, most people see the name, but they don't really see how much of that is there. And you're right, it's usually a cost-saving reason, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So particularly if you see almost the exact same product that says it's the same stuff and the one is, a quarter of the price of the other one, usually you'll find the reason on the back if you bother to look.
That's right. That's right. And I think another telltale sign, or something else that's a tool that your consumers can look for, is understand that by law, all ingredients have to be listed in order of weight predominance. So even if it's a nutrition facts panel and not a dietary supplement that would list out the individual ingredients, like a food, for example, a protein product or a protein fiber macronutrient based product, they can also make sure that that the order of ingredients listed matches what they're looking for. If they're buying a product because they want a high quality protein, then you better make sure that that protein is first or second on that list. Right?
Are there any ingredients that our listeners should avoid when they're looking at all this?
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question, right?
It is.
Because it really depends on so many variables. But I think it's important for consumers to work with someone who's knowledgeable in the space and understands the dietary supplement space, and someone that consumers can trust. Ideally, a healthcare professional who also has additional training and experience and expertise, such as yourself in nutrition or nutritional biochemistry and nutritional sciences in general. But there are some designer stimulants that have made their way onto the marketplace that consumers should be aware of, because, of course, there can be some substantial interactions with, for example, psychotropic medications or antidepressants or antipsychotics and anti-anxiety medications. So, there's some designer stimulants. I would also say there are also some ingredients that are not really dietary ingredients, but have made their way into dietary supplements as well. They're essentially drugs that are masquerading, or they're unapproved, misbranded drugs that are masquerading as dietary supplements. And these are some things like SARMs or certain hormonal modulators that could be used sometimes in certain circles of the dietary supplement space. But they tend not to be mass market. They tend not to have as much exposure. They're sort of trying to fly under the radar as well, and they may sell at very small specialty retail centers.
Okay. Any ingredients that people should look for, or is that a loaded question too?
Yeah. Well, I think I often end up getting asked, and I'm sure you do as well, right? What's the best supplement I should be on, right? And there really is no best for everyone, right? Because one size fits all means one size fits nobody. And there should be a degree of customization, if you will, to what an individual is looking for, depending on what their goals are. But I think generally I'll tell you, some supplements that I take, for example, that are non-negotiables. So I'm definitely on a high quality marine-based omega-3 fatty acid product. So an EPA, DHA, DPA supplement. I like astaxanthin. I also am on magnesium, usually a magnesium that's a chelated form of magnesium, either magnesium threonate or bisglycinate. I also do take some products that are higher in the curcuminoid polyphenol category. I also take, even though I take it for general health and wellness and longevity, I take creatine monohydrate, which I know may sound like a surprise, right? Because most people associate creatine with bodybuilders or sports nutrition, but there are some enormous general health and wellness side benefits to creatine. So I also take creatine. And then, of course, I do take NAD3, which I know we'll talk about a little later, as a longevity kind of super nutrient matrix. And I think those are sort of the non-negotiables. And then I rotate other ingredients that I guess you could consider more specialty type into my regimen.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought...
Vitamin D3 is a big one, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, vitamin D3. There's now actually 17 separate studies correlating higher vitamin D levels with lessening or avoiding COVID-19, higher the better, and the
That's right.
lower the worse outcome. 17 studies now.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. What do they say? Where there's smoke, there's usually fire, right? There's a lot. There's a whole lot of smoke there.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, folks. Get some vitamin D in you, please.
Absolutely.
You got to arm yourself against this virus.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's,
Regardless, right? Regardless, what other strategies you're using, social distancing, masking, etc., even vaccination. Whether you're pro or anti-vax, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're still going to respond better, and your outcomes are going to be better if you're metabolically tuned up, if you will. And certainly, vitamin D optimization is one method or one strategy. Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.